Hi, everyone. This is John DeRelay with Wheelhouse. I'm your head of onboarding, and I'm here to give you a little introduction to Wheelhouse's new dynamic sets tool. Today, we're going to talk about how to create and also assign a dynamic set. And through that, we're going to go over a lot of the great new features that we have here. So the first thing I'm going to go over is this page. Right now, because we haven't quite released this yet, this still says comp set until beta. This will be becoming the dynamic sets page. I've already navigated here to where this dynamic sets page is. You can see it's in beta. This won't always be here. And on this page, there's a number of things that you can see. First, if I'm going to create a new set, I can go over here and start Navigator. We're going to come back to that. I want to walk you through a little bit of this page so you know how to navigate it as you get more and more sets built out. If we go a little further down the page, you can see that in my system, I currently have 2 sets built. I can use this to search. So if you have quite a few different sets, you can use them to filter them in and out. You can see I've got that Playa set here, just showing one. I also have a few other things that I can do. So if I go over here to the right side, you'll notice that there's a few options. This first one is just going to change the metrics that are being shown. So right now it's showing the average of listings I've assigned to it. We'll come back to that, and also the averages of the set. I can change those between their rank and also just the numbers themselves. I also have this option here. So this is an option that you'll see in a couple of our other pages as well. I can change the time frame that it's evaluating each of these sets. So I like to set this to the last year. We can go ahead and look how the last year has been going. You can see that all of these metrics have changed. And again, I can rank them based on where they are. This will list a whole number of sets for you. There's a few other things here. You can see how many of your own listings have been assigned to a set. You can see when you last updated the set, what category of the set you've put in. This will kind of come into place a little later as we develop the platform, and also what metrics are being done. So in this case, this is a very large set. There's 476 listings in it. I'm only going to get aggregate metrics in that set. Looking at this, we have a few options. So if I choose one set, this Playa del set, which is in Playa del Carmen, if I go over to here, you can see there's a few options. So I can hide and show these listing metrics. Each one of these is a listing in my portfolio that I've assigned to it. I can now unfurl that and see those comparisons. I can also assign additional listings. So you can see I've got these listings here. If I wanted to assign as many listings as I wanted, I can go ahead and do that. And now, when I close this and start to show these listings, so let's hide the metrics and we'll make them come back, I'll get more listings in here. In addition to that, you have the opportunity to pull up your own information for your listings or just unassign them from this menu. You also have the option to do a few things. Upgrading the set will be subscribing it so you can access it. You can edit the details of the set, changing its name, its category, its description. All of those are pretty self-explanatory. Should you decide you want to go into any set, there's a few options here. If you edit it, that's going to take us to this navigator, which I'll show you in a second. You can also hit this metrics portion, and that's going to go ahead and take us into the specifics of the set. So the metrics will look pretty familiar if you used our previous comp set tool. We do have some new things that go along with that, but this is how you can get to the actual details of the set itself. Now, if you're just starting with our dynamic sets, you are not going to have some sets created that you can already edit and view and assign listings to. So let's go ahead and create our own new set. First, we're going to go to where this says create a set, and I'm going to start the navigator. This navigator is going to take us to this really cool new map tool where we can use to explore the listings that are available in an area and also add them to sets. Let's start with, we'll just go to Seattle for now. Now, I'm going to type in Seattle. I'm going to go here to Seattle, Washington. This is going to take a moment to load. The system will load pretty much everything up to a max of 5,000. And it will adjust as you move the map around. So you can see if I shift, it'll start to load these up and pull these in. Now, what's very, very cool about this map page is that I am not bounded by that initial start location. So I put in Seattle. If I wanted to go over here to Bellevue or zoom out all the way to Spokane and zoom back in, whoops, Spokane is where I'm from, so you guys No, that's why I'm choosing it. I can go ahead and pull listings here. So the navigator itself is pretty much fully open. You can actually add listings to a set from different areas if that's something you wanted. I know some people have use cases for that. For the most part, you'll probably be staying in the same place, but you can pull up and load listings in different areas. Okay, so let's go back to Seattle for now. And we'll pull up a few options here. While we're doing this, there's a few pretty cool options that we have available here. So the first one is if I go up to my settings, so you see there's a settings thing here, I have a bunch of options here. We're going to hit these as we get to the different parts. But for one, let's just go to map. You'll notice that we can change this. So we can adjust how we want this map to show up. There's some cool ones. Some people like this dark mode. That's pretty neat. We have satellite imagery as well if you really want to see the specifics. You get to see all the great shadows. Must be a sunny day in Seattle, which is pretty crazy. Navigation night. There's a whole bunch of options here, so feel free to change these anytime. This is showing us the traffic, which is pretty neat. I'm going to leave this on the Wheelhouse one for now. We also have an option to change the elevation. That'll make sense in a moment. So first one, feel free to change your map. Next, what we're going to do is if I go over here to show hide layers, there's a few options here. These ones are going to be pre-checked. It's the listings, inset listings, review listings, hidden listings, that kind of thing. I can add my postal code so I can see the zip codes on the map. That can be pretty helpful. We also have a few cool features here. If I hit 3D buildings and hill shading, this map is actually going to get a whole bunch of modeling on top. So you can get an idea of how things look in terms of the topography. So that is right here under the show hide layers. Now, if I go one to the right and go to set dimensions, right now we got it on 2D, so we're looking just straight top down. But if I switch this to 3D, now that hill and building viewpoint becomes really visible. I can actually see the topography of the map. The listings are being overlaid. And if I hold my right mouse button, I can actually turn this, tilt it, and zoom in. So a lot of really cool options for exploring an area that maybe you don't know very well, for trying to understand roughly where listings sit in relation to that. And really, honestly, it's just a fun tool to play with. Okay, so now that I've got all these kind of cool things out of the way, I'm actually going to switch this back to 2D for now. And I'm also going to just not have the buildings in the hills, just so that it's a little easier for me to see. I know this area pretty well. I've done some exploring. You'll notice there's quite a lot of listings here that are being loaded in. And one of the first things that you know when you're creating a set for either benchmarking or a competitive set of specific listings, or you're exploring areas for forecasting, is you probably don't want to look at all the listings in an area. So if I go over here, you'll see there's two tools, rectangle and polygon. These allow us to set boundaries on our map. So if I'm looking in Seattle, there's probably a few places I want to be. I'm going to look at Belltown and a little bit of South Lake Union, all the way through downtown, but let's include Capitol Hill, actually. We'll include some of Capitol Hill. We'll include First Hill. Whoops. We'll come over to here, and then let's include up to Pioneer Square. We don't really want to include Pioneer Square. So you can see, just by clicking that, I have now created a boundary, and that's where my listings are going to be loaded. Super awesome. If I want to, I can go ahead and save this boundary. So you can save a boundary and import it, and then you can use it on other things as well. Just by clicking that, you can name it and describe it. I would recommend naming the location, because if you bring this up later, because it's an unbounded set tool, you can pull in boundaries in different areas. So this one's going to be Seattle, CBD, Belltown, Cap Hill. And what's very cool is we can actually add additional areas to this. So maybe I was looking at this, and this looks like a really solid area, but I also know that there's a few other areas that might be good just because they're popular. So I'm going to go up here to the University District, And we're going to go ahead and just add the U district to this as well. I'm going to add a boundary here. So now, as I zoom out, it's going to pull listings in both of these areas. If I really wanted to, I can keep adding those. Maybe I want Fremont as well. Fremont's a pretty cool neighborhood. I could see people traveling there. So we'll go ahead and add that. We won't include Wallingford though. And you can see the system is loading in and pulling in these listings. While I'm doing this, you may find that you want to have a little bit more space. There is an option here just to toggle this sidebar off so you can access it. If you do have it off, it's just going to be right here so you can get it back. And now that I've given myself some location filters, I can start to look at these other options that we have here. So the first thing I can do is on this sidebar, you'll notice that there are quite a few options for filtering down the portfolio itself. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at this. See where it says organize filters? There's a number of different ways that you can filter this portfolio out, and they can be reordered. So listing count is a good one. I'm going to keep that one on top. I'm going to put bedrooms up here. I'm also going to do bookable nights. I want to know maybe how open stuff is. I'm also going to pull up the amenities because that's potentially an important one for me. And I'm also going to pull up the cleaning fee just because I'm interested in getting some of that information. These are all available, but this is just allowing me to kind of see what I think is important and be able to use those as options more easily. So I'm going to go ahead and hit update there. Now that I've got my sidebar set up a little bit, I also have a few other things that I might use while I'm filtering. So right up here in the top space, if I click on this menu, you can see that there's a few different time frames that I can look at. Often, if you're creating a set to see what you might compete against for individual listings, you might do the next 90 days. I'm going to create a pretty large set right now, so I'm actually going to do the last 365 days. And that's what I want to use to kind of filter down. So all of these statistics kind of adjusted, and now I can do a few simple things. Maybe I just want to look at 1s and 2 bedrooms. I'm just going to go ahead and click this filter here and filter out anything that's not a 1 or 2 bedroom. You can see my listing count changed. These are reactive, so the dots on the page are changing for this. I also want to do bookable nights. So I know this is 365 days. I want to know listings that were available for at least half the year, if not 2/3 of the year. So if I go down here to like 120, I'm just going to select everything that had 120 days or more available to book. We know Seattle is quite a restricted market, so we really want to get stuff that is booking pretty consistently and is available pretty consistently. I also want to know if they were actually performing. So if I was building, say, a set where I can benchmark against, I want to include listings that really are making reservations in the last year. And I'm going to go ahead and choose anything that had at least 50% occupancy. So we'll pick let's clear that. And we'll do like 180 days. So I'll find about 180 days here. So everything that's above that. Now you can see I filtered out quite a few listings. I've only got 418 listings left. I'm also going to look in cleaning fee here. These are some pretty expensive cleaning fees for 1s and 2 bedrooms, but I also probably don't want to include anything that's not charging a cleaning fee. So we'll go ahead and choose this to about $150. We'll take out some of the outliers there. Final thing, we want to take a look at some of these amenities. Washington's not a super amenitized place, but air conditioning is a really interesting one. You'll notice not a lot of people have air conditioning in Seattle, so that drops quite a bit. That's a pretty important one if you have travelers coming. We also want to make sure that there's Wi-Fi, which everyone seems to have Wi-Fi, which makes sense. There's not going to be a lot of places with pools in Seattle, so I'm not going to do that, but you can use this to really filter down into what you want. Now, that's a pretty good set here. I've got 178 listings I can choose from. If I wanted to use this as a benchmarking set, I can actually just click this button, add to set, and add them all. But we may not be making a benchmarking set, so we'll look at a few other options there. Before we move on, while we're talking about this navigation though, there are a few cool things. If you go down here to the bottom right, you have an option to show different things. So right now, everything is just not in a set or not hidden, but you could choose to show or hide hidden listings. You can also show your own listings. They will map them here if you see them, both your own listings and any listings that you've been assigned or any listings you choose to compare to. So this can be pretty helpful as well. In addition to that, I also have this on each one of these widgets, these color markers. And if I click this, it's going to color code what's on the list according to that. So that's pretty helpful. You can see that it's giving me some of the other options that we filtered out, but they're actually not appearing here because they are filtered out. If I hover over them, interestingly enough, it will show me those. But what's actually in the filter setting is only these ones and twos. So these colors can be really, really helpful. All I have to do is click them on and off. You have that option for, pretty much every one of these. If I do one that's a little more complicated, book nights, it's going to give us a gradient scale so we can see how that's doing. Overall, pretty awesome. Now, the next piece is really for us to make a set. So if I'm using this, all I have to do is click on a dot, and it's going to pull up a little preview of what I have here. I have those statistics, so last 365 days, that is linked up here. It's going to give me an idea of what their calendar looks like coming up, what some of their statistics are, few of their qualities. I can also go ahead and click this and view this in an OTA. So I could take a quick look at what that looks like on the front end. And there's a few options for me here. This first one, I'm going to do review later. Maybe that's a good one for the set. So you can see now that that's showing up with this review later listing, so I know that I've added that to a set. I can also click on it here on this review side panel on the left and get access to this listing here. If I want to click another listing, let's take a look at this one. Looks like it's doing okay. This one, let's go ahead and add to the set. So you can see that looks a little different. Again, I have a side panel here looking at the listing in the set, and I've got it right here. This listing, let's pretend it's horrible. I don't like it. I don't want it in the set, even though it actually is quite a nice listing. I'm going to just go ahead and hide that. I don't want to see this on my map anymore. But again, I hit it, but it's still in a list. So I might use that for something else. I can move these around if I want to. All I have to do to click and view is open up these side panels. Okay, so I've gone through and added some listings to my set. You can see them here, they're down here. If I go to the in view section, I can add some of these in bulk too. So this in view is just showing all the listings, 1735. You can see here that when I hover over a listing, it's highlighting it. And I can also select these in multiple ways too. So we'll just select a few here. And I can add those to the set as well. So if I do want to add stuff in bulk, I can do so. I can also just click these and add these to the set, or also add them to my other viewpoints as well. So maybe this one we're going to hide, and this one we're going to review later. So all pretty useful here. Now, if I'm looking at any of these side panels, or I click on a listing to pull up the details, there's this view details button. And this button's going to be really helpful. So let me move my head here a little bit. When I hit view details, you have access to a ton more information. Again, you can get to the view OTA. You can see the qualities of the listing itself, how many reviews I have here, what the cleaning fee is. And then you have access to both past and future metrics so that you can see at a glance how this works with a listing. Looking at the past metrics, you can see I have both 90 and 365. Same thing for future. If I want, I could add this to the set. Looks great. You can access this information from any one of your listings. So let me close that out. You can see whether I'm in set or in review or in view, in listing view. All I have to do is click this on the listing and it's going to pull up that information for me. Now I can go one step further. For any savvy folks, you might notice that there's a compare feature here as well. If I click compare, I can have it filter according to like how far my listings are. I don't think I have any listings in Seattle, but I'm just going to add any listing here. So we'll add this Nashville listing. Now, when I've added a compare listing, what it's going to do is it's also going to pull up these statistics for the listings that I'm comparing. Pretty awesome. This is going to take a minute to load, but I have the capability to pull my own listings up into this and use those to see how performance is. Now, any listing I add to the compare, I can add up here as well. So you can preset this up if you wanted to, maybe add a bunch of listings here, and then those will be available to you when you do the comparison. Now, one more thing that I can do is, let's say I wanted to build a really big set. Some people will use a dynamic set to just like compare the pricing and performance of specific listings, but maybe I just want to get an idea of how this whole region is doing in these groups. The first thing I can do is, I'm hiding a few listings here. You can see that they're appearing on my map. Every time I hide one, this drops a little bit. And if I wanted to, I could just add everything to the set. So I'm going to add all 159, create a nice big set here. Now the majority of my listings are in the set. It's giving me a little notice telling me that this is going to be aggregated because there's more than 25 listings in it. And if I wanted to, I could easily just go through these set and knock some of these out if I wanted to. Final piece on this navigator is you do have some options in terms of what shows up here and also here. If we go back to this settings page, you'll see that there's a few options here. There's sidebar and there's pop-up. You have an option to customize what is available. So these attributes are going to appear up here, or they're going to appear, sorry, on the listings and on the pop-up. From this, you can add things like the cleaning fee or the reviews, adding attributes. You can see that those are here. You can adjust what you can see. These are all pretty fun to toggle with, and I would just find the setup that you like, and just keep in mind, if you're not seeing a KPI that you think you should see, it may be that it's not turned on here, and you can adjust this pretty much at any time, depending on the use case you're using the dynamic set for. Okay, now, one of the more important pieces here is I've done a lot of this adjusting on my navigator, but I have not created my set yet. So in order to take this and save it, I'm going to go up here to create a new set, and I'm just going to name this. This is Seattle, Belltown, Cap Hill, CBD plus U District. So I may do a few other things here too. You probably want to think about a method of how you label this. So maybe this is a benchmark. Bench. And then maybe I'll do this, Seattle. And then maybe I'll call it, so I'm going to put this in the description actually, and I'm going to call this 12 BD, or maybe just 12. I'm going to call this a neighborhood set. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to use it for benchmarking, and I'm going to go ahead and just create this now. So that's been successfully saved. If I wanted to, I can continue editing it. Anything I do here will kind of adjust. I could add a new region if I wanted to, that kind of thing. Have a lot of flexibility here. Now, if I go back to my sets overview, I will now see this set in the list. If I scroll down, I can see there's my bench, Seattle 12. And if I go over here, this is where I would be assigning listings. And assigning listings is pretty helpful, right? Because this is going to pull across into a number of areas in the platform. You can look at performance. Let's just go ahead and assign some listings. Let me see here. There's another listing. I want to assign that Nashville listing just because I know to find it. All right. Got a bunch of listings assigned here. Whoops. Once I have these listings assigned, I can see all of the information here, and this will start to pull across into other areas of the platform. So I will have the option here. So let's go to the GNS. Back. Okay, that's this one. The Nashville one. And I will be able to pull across my comp set information into here. This will look a little different because we'll be selecting what comp set we use. In this case, I'll use this benchmark Seattle set, and can now pull across various aspects of what we're doing. I will also be able to do something similar at an aggregate level, where on my bookings page, I'll be able to use these benchmark sets and also pull across the data, which you can see already starting to show here. So that is an overview of what you can do when you go to create a new set. Just as a quick recap, we looked at how this dynamic sets overview page works, how you can assign listings and see KPIs and information at a glance from this page. We went into the navigator and actually created a set and went through all of the filter settings, the options, and what you can look at when you're exploring individual listings. Then what we did is we went back into the system and I showed you, once you've assigned listings to the set, how you can bring that data across to the individual listing pages and also into our business intelligence tools. In upcoming videos, we'll be showing you some more specific use cases for what kind of dynamic sets you can make, and we're really excited for all of you guys to be able to use this tool.